gem. All right, we are going to do a switch now. We're going to move on to introducing
All
you
right.
to beautiful.
Thank you. Good luck, Jane. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Over to beautiful Jane Vandermeer, who is a fellow Aussie like me. I'm in Sydney. She's in Melbourne. Jane is a multi-award-winning global expert. She's in personal styling. So we're having a little bit of fashion in the house now. She is a beautiful, magnetic and engaging speaker. You're going to love her. And she's even going to do a bit of a presentation for us today as well. She's an author. She's a trainer. She loves sharing her knowledge. She gives so much beautiful value. She is highly intuitive. You will notice that she's just on a total pole opposite level of, calmness and softness to my high energy vibe. But we just absolutely adore her. She works in all things high-end fashion, and I'm looking forward to her sharing with us today. So welcome, Jane.
Thank you so much, Annie. It's always a delight chatting with you, of course, and all the beautiful women that you always attract. So thank you for the lovely company, and gosh, it was amazing to hear Nikki. I only heard a bit and I'm so inspired already.
I know, and the great thing is though, because we've got like 24 speakers across 12 hours, every half hour we've got another speaker, and I know a lot of people are coming in different time zones, bits and pieces. So we're going live now. We're having that opportunity that we can be here live, we can be sharing, asking questions. Also, all of the presentations will then be chopped into little half-hour segments that I will be posting so that people can watch each individual speaker and you can have plenty of catch up. So watch out for that in the next couple of weeks as well. And yes. So I would love you to share a little bit about yourself, and just I know you've got a little presentation for us as well, but how would you like to do that, Jane? Would you like me to ask you some questions, or are you happy
we can just chat for the time being.
Okay. All right. Well, how about you just tell us all about your background? How did you get started in using e-commerce for your business?
Yeah. So I'm a fashion designer. I've always worked in fashion, which of course is this tactile industry, and because as a stylist, I don't sell a product, I sell a service. And I remember thinking, how on earth do I translate that with an effective result for the end user, that she gets a really beautiful, enriching experience when we've got this, through the screen, so to speak. And it took me a fair bit to work out how to do it and Janeify it, make it really impactful for the end user. It's different if you have a product. It's a different, somewhat easier, I think. So it did take me, and that was always my goal. And then lockdown brought it forward for me. It helped push me along quicker, even though it was already in the works. So what I did was created something that is a hybrid. So it is slightly self-paced, but with me, so that because I think, and I gathered this just by what Nikki said at the end there, it is the human experience. And as women, we connect together. In smaller businesses, one reason why we work with smaller businesses is the person. It is the relationship. It is her knowledge. We get to know the woman or the team, as opposed to a faceless corporation. So I think in my experience, the key is infusing your personality, your ethos, your values, your messaging through every part of it. And a bit of trial and error, because I don't know, you seem to do, me probably and all of us, we do a lot of courses and there is this sort of formula. And so we do all that. And then everything I'm about is bringing it back to, okay, great, but actually A, B, and C doesn't feel authentic to who I am. And the minute that I really, truly embraced the authenticity of me is when it was almost like a flick overnight. but it was a little bit of a process to get there, because I didn't really want to be the face in a public way. I'm super private, and I've managed to have a 30-year career in the fashion industry without being, super public, because it's just not who I am. So finding the way to do it that's still authentic to me is what I found was the key.
It's an interesting journey that many of us find, that you suddenly become the face of that business, and you kind of go, it's easier to be sometimes just the known, the company's name, but more and more it's actually the way to do modern business. And is that why it dragged you into that space? Because now, knowing Jane Vandermeer as I do, you go, as if Jane wouldn't mind being the face of the business. But there is a shift that you actually went, you know what, for me to be able to achieve what I need, I need to have that personal element. So you went sort of a bit dragged and screaming. Slightly. I remember at one point, I had a beautiful website, but I really was looking for stock images because I really didn't want it to be me. And of course, nothing truly captured the message and the messaging and my perspective of fashion and styling, which is all about you as your unique, beautiful blend of who you are. And so there was a disconnect. And of course, it often never landed. And I've always spoken quite a bit, and spoken in real life and on events and things. And of course, that is my magic, is that communication and being able to look at you and smile at you and know that what I've said has landed. So kicking and screaming, yes, it was a really, really big shift for me to do that. And of course, that's what's needed. Women, we need to know, okay, yep, she looks lovely, she looks warm, she looks kind, she looks like I can trust her, or she's not my kind of girl, but we need to know those kind of things. And I think once we can step into that, but do it in our way. I remember going to an event and this lady said, "Oh, you're a stylist." I said, "Yeah." And she said, "You need to be on doing demonstrations on TikTok." And I said, "Oh, okay, do I?" And I just sat there and I didn't give her a whole lot, because I thought, I get why you're saying that. I get it. But I think you've got to bring it back to what really resonates for you as the individual. I'm not about making sweeping statements saying we've all got to do A, B, and C. And that's how I view fashion. You'll never catch me saying we all need a little black dress, because I sincerely, with all my being, don't believe that. So why on earth would I say, yeah, we all need to be on TikTok and doing this, this, and this, because then we're all doing the same thing. And why on earth would you come to me? I fall into a sea of same, but different. And of course, I'm not same, but different. And so it's a bit of trial and error. Nothing is static. We need to keep moving and growing, exactly like what you girls said about the QR codes. We need to keep growing. But I think it's about finding your way that is truly authentic to who you are and your message. And I know Kimberly's spoken to that as well, and Deb, owning your space, doing it your own way, which brings me to the next little question, though, that when you started your own business, so you went from years being, a buyer, a designer, doing all the aspects, a teacher, all these aspects of your profession, and then you started your own business. But then with that, then you've got such breadth of experience, right? So you had to then go, you had to spend some time unpacking what is your specific unique niche? Who is that target market? And then obviously if they're not talking, then, or, that same type of customer might be for a different brand or a different look, but it's not for you. So you've done two journeys. You've unpacked who is Jane Vandermeer, and also you've had to go, well, who is my unique avatar that I'm trying to connect with? Was that hard when you've got such breadth?
That's such a great question, Annie. Totally hard. side of me, because I, you know, on and off over the years, and I still a little bit, I guess, lecture at fashion tertiary universities and things, because, you know, it's giving back, and I want to be that, or I'd like to think that leader that 20-year-old Jane wanted, you know, so I try and be her. And so I've got a real soft spot for that startup space of, you know, students, younger people when they're starting their business. So I did focus in that area, and as an avatar at one point. So it was a bit of a process working out. It's like continuous improvement. I think that's what it is, continuous improvement. And so I base a lot on instinct and intuition. So, you know, working in that space and then, you know, reflecting on it, how much energy output, energy input, where I'm making a real difference, who I'm making a real difference with. And it has morphed. It absolutely has morphed. And I think that's okay too. You know, I think as a creative and as a entrepreneurial thinker, we're good at quite a few different things. So you can very easily end up with a trillion different offerings, and then your focus is so split. And to make progress, you're making a little bit of progress across a lot of areas. So therefore, it feels like you're going really slow. And bit by bit, I remember thinking, I think I need to narrow this down. And of course, it always feels really quite scary and nerve-wracking to narrow down your avatar, because you think you're going to cut out all these other possible clients. But of course, it's the best thing you could ever do, because once you work out who that avatar is, and in my case, I only work with women, so who my lady is, of course, then your messaging is clearer, and you just send love to all the others. And of course, they find you anyway, but your messaging is clearer. And that was a process. And even though I knew that intellectually, because this isn't my first rodeo, but it was still an evolving process for me, a bit of trial and error and continuous improvement.
It is a hard place, but once you get there, I also think it gives you freedom to people who aren't your peeps, the people who are just sponge off you, just getting freebie information and never going to buy anyway. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like now it's like,
no,
I might not be your person, and being comfortable in that.
Yeah, with a smile and with kindness, you say, you know who'd be wonderful for you? Let me recommend someone. And, you know, that's fabulous, isn't it? And I agree. I'd rather not have the people that faff around and just want, you know, I don't mind giving, but not, I don't want 80% of my business to be like that. That's not.
Okay. That's not going to work for an entrepreneur. Now, I would love to know, though, how do you differentiate your business? So every industry, every area, every business is saturated. Like there's no.
I agree.
But you have to also differentiate in your market. So
you do.
how do you approach that? And so is it just about Jane being uniquely Jane, or do you have other strategies in place that go, you know what, I am unique for these reasons?
Yeah. I think number one is it's me being uniquely me, which sounds so easy, but I don't think it truly is. I think it's a process, and I think it comes with a bit of age and wisdom. So number one, I put a number of tools in place. So, you know, in our feeds, our social feeds, the magic world of, you know, what they do, the algorithms, I think in my case, if I'm a stylist, it seemed to bring up every other stylist known to man in my feed for a fair while there. That was not great, because what was happening is if it was a bit of a wobbly moment for me, I'd then look at everyone else and go, oh, what on earth am I doing? And it would, any moment of doubt that was in there, it would feed it. And I thought, this is not good. This is not good. So I often talk about the bubble of Jane. And so I create a really strong bubble of Jane. I do not follow, you've got to know roughly what's going on in your industry, but beyond that, I block everything out energetically, physically, and I make sure my core and my daily practices is another part, is I make sure every day that ideally half an hour at least I am I get up usually and watch the sun rise and, tune in to my day and what's needed, and make sure it's about my focus, my intention, what I want to create in my life, and what my daily, what's on the daily to-do list. And every now and then that changes a little bit. You've got to be a little bit fluid and flexible. Combine that with having clear goals. So I describe that as a balance of masculine and feminine focus and energy. Part of that practice, or the result of that practice is it's keeping me really clear on my way forward, the bubble of Jane, and everything else is very secondary. Rather than me looking on socials first thing. We've all heard this before, because then you're looking outwards and it can throw you off kilter, off focus. So and emails the same. I block it all out and stay really, really clear. And that small shift has made monumental difference, because then it's about the internal, and the answers are there all the time. We just need to tune into it. Whereas the external noise throws us off balance all the time. It's such a constant thing, that one. And then, of course, that my messaging is clear. It's not muddled, because I'm not muddled.
Yes, that's right, because you just straight ahead. I love the incognito search function, so that you don't get drowned. If you want to search something, just go incognito, and then it doesn't turn on your feed. And there's a fine line there too on the journey of you wanting to make sure that you regularly checking out what competitors and others are doing, but you also don't want it to be the distractor, and then from what you're trying to achieve. There's a fine line balance, and I think that takes people a long time to feel comfortable in. It's kind of like I'm intentionally checking, but it's not going to sway me if I'm following a clear strategy.
Yeah, and I think sort of at certain points, maybe it's points of growth and refining your offering, you see something that someone's done, or a great lead magnet or whatever, and you think, oh, maybe I should do that. That could be good. And so before you know it, you're sort of a bit scattergun. You can very easily be a bit scattergun with your approach. And I think you've got to be a bit careful there. Got to be a bit careful. Yeah. And also the other thing I've had to really tighten up is where I put energy into, and having welcome hello calls. I'm really pretty controlled with that now, because it's all areas where we can leak energy.
Leaking energy, that's a good phrase. Yes, exactly. We want to capture it. We want to be re-energized by that energy that we do have. I actually think you use it to your advantage, that it refuels. Let's move on to partnerships. I know partnerships are so powerful in business. Building and maintaining partnerships. How have you gone about that? We've certainly got to still talk about our partnership. It's reminded me.
And this is a beautiful example. I've always loved partnerships. I love relationships with women where we can truly authentically elevate each other. So an example is, I was a made to order couture designer straight out of university. So I had one of my first businesses at about 20. There was a woman that I was introduced to who was the other side of town in Melbourne. And our mutual supplier said, you girls should meet. You girls would get along. And of course, we're direct competition. And so I reached out, we met, and of course, she's wonderful. I really like her. We refer each other. 25 years later, we're still friends, and we still refer each other. And I think And even though I'm not in that business anymore, I get her in as a guest speaker, blah, blah, blah. So I think there is power in sincerely supporting women. The old thing, we rise together. And whether that is in similar businesses or completely different businesses, but when you truly vibrate on the same level, when you truly connect and have an aligned purpose, like I love being around women who are purpose-driven women and who are here for something greater than, yes, ourselves, but also beyond that. There is something really special in that, and the energy that gives each other, and passion, and then there's nothing more wonderful than saying, who you need to meet? My friend Annie, she's pretty extraordinary, blah, 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 and bring two people together. So yes, I think it's a key integral part of what I've always believed in. Absolutely.
And I've noticed that about you too. You're really great at your networking and connecting and having those long-term relationships and just showing up at different events. We were talking about that quite a lot actually over quite a few of our speakers, and Wendy spoke to that, Marie spoke to that as well. Actually just investing in that those relationships, not the oh, I need you, I'm going to reach out to you, just the constant. You do that through Leadership Global, you've done that through She's the Boss, you've done that through Women's Biz Global, and I think that's just so helpful on your business. One question I'd love to ask you too then is, while we're wanting to be niche and we're talking about, the beginning of the conversation, it's like, yes, you got to just know who you are and what you have to offer and keep that really clear messaging. At the same time, as an entrepreneur, there's always this pull to grow and scale and expand, right? And it can be a real pull, because you go, oh, but I don't want to be boring. I don't want to be same. So I've got to sort of have this shift. And that can be right for a season, for a time, but sometimes it can actually be the downfall and the distractor. How do you approach that?
Yeah, that's such a great question, isn't it? Because, I happen to know, Annie and her world domination, and cheerlead you on. And I suppose I have my version of that. But you're right, then we need to bring that back to here and now, and what is required to take us from there to there. And a lot of us are self-funded. So, how we make, I don't want to say the right decisions, because we make the best decisions we can at the time, and we really do our best to. Yeah, look, I find, and probably because my face is around now and I've done a few things, is then opportunities flow in left, right and centre, which is really lovely. And many opportunities cost this, that and the other. And so it is tricky to really, you could again be really scattergun with that growth. So I think you've got to really bring it back to being a little bit strategic with that. I'm not 100% strategic. I am part of the way, and then I just trust my instinct where to go for the next parts, because I know what the big goal is, and I trust I get led to end up there.
Have you intentionally said no to opportunities, ways that you could have grown your business that you went, no, that's just not going to work for me?
Yeah, great question. Yes, absolutely. And now, or not now, for the last patch of my life, I happily say no. And that's really hard for a lot of women. Gosh, that's really hard. And I think when you say no, even say to a client who you could really do with that sale, it's a big sale, and you could do with that cash injection. So it takes a lot of courage when those warning bells, those red flags, or I call it the whispers of your intuition, are going, I don't know about this. And if you can I find when I trust the no, and now I act on it and say, look, thank you so much. Let me recommend someone else, something like that. I find within almost 24 hours, this wonderful opportunity comes in. It's almost like a little reward for bravely knocking back something that wasn't quite right or would have been a really challenging experience. And then you get the reward of a much more aligned client or opportunity. You know, before we had one of our beautiful collaborations, I've loved that we have had a number, Annie, but I remember you just kindly said, you know, we were chatting one day and about lots of things, and I was asked to, I had 3 book opportunities. I sold another business and I had 3 book opportunities in 1 week. I happened to be talking to you. You just casually mentioned that you're doing a book. There was just no hard sell. It was really gentle and beautiful. And I thought, this feels so lovely. And I had 3 in 1 week in about 24 hours. But I just knew. And it was, of course, the right thing for me. And it was a beautiful experience. So I think, and saying no to the other 2 was spot on, and it created space for the more aligned one. So
Thank you for sharing that. Awesome having you in our book as well. It's called A Woman's Guide to Business Domination.
Yeah.
And it is available in bizshopping.com.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Jane. But also, it's twofold then, isn't it? One, it allows you to say no because it's just not right for you. What I loved you shared there at the end, though, is that it actually frees up space for the next bit. And that's where I see the laws of attraction really kicking in on you.
Totally.
Like I'm seeing that with you now, that by freeing up, by being more pure to who you are, it actually then, it is like a magnet. It is drawing those other opportunities which are so aligned with you that you just look really happy. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it gives more and more opportunities for Jane. Whereas if you try and bend a bit and try and make up things fit, then you kind of fall a bit and you're not as...
It's just that little bit of not selling your soul, but just not bending too much. You can bend a little bit. It's like in relationships. You can bend a little bit, but once you're bending too much all the time, you're too off course. And so if you're off course, how do the right things come along?
Exactly. It's very uncomfortable as well.
It is. It's icky. It's like the thing that you sort of gnaws away at you. You're like, it's a bit off.
All right. So how about the last few minutes then, how do you balance the demands of running this business, one that you love? You're also your personal, your life, you know, you're juggling it all, but you're still growing. You're certainly not slowing down. So how do you go about that? Do you have any practices? I know you shared before that you wake up and you have a real mindfulness meditation sort of space. What other do you do to put
that is non-negotiable. As a reformed night owl, I'll add, there's creativity in there somewhere that feeds my soul. And now it doesn't always work, but to the best of my ability, I don't overbook my calendar anymore. I'm much more, again, reformed overachiever, to create more space. And I loved what you said, that you sort of work over 7 days. I sort of do my best to try and contain it to about 6. But in the same sentence, I don't want same every day. I love that some days are on and then some days are more creative, and some days I might, in the middle of the day, go and meet a friend and do something and make it work for me, for balance, instead of sitting in front of the computer for 8 hours solid slogging away. There might be days like that, but there wouldn't be back-to-back 6 days a week like that anymore. And that in turn sparks the ideas, sparks the creativity, gets the download. And that's, in turn, that's the part of the joy as well. So it's a bit more balance in there. And if I'm foggy and I cannot seem to write a post, a tiny little paragraph, and I cannot do it, instead of trying to push through, I walk away and I go for a walk, or I go and do something. And then usually I come back and I can bang it out in 2 minutes and it flows. And so it's staying a bit more in flow.
One question to finish with then. If
Mm.
you had your time again, would you have become an entrepreneur earlier, or do you think you actually
My-
need
I
those
s-
years of experience?
Yeah, I started when I was 16. So
Oh,
that's my,
you
so I
started
was
earlier than that
young.
then.
And I probably wouldn't have changed a thing. Yeah. Yeah. So I think really even the hard bits, I probably wouldn't have changed a thing because it's got me to where I am now. Yeah. And it's always been there in one form or another. Yeah, always.
It's an industry because you're also so personal on your personal service with people. So from an e-commerce perspective, you know, how, or from just a scalability, because there's only one Jane, how does that work from a business perspective? Do you have a plan that's like, well, you just wait till you're your max, or do you actually go, you know what, it'd be bigger, it would be good when it's even bigger and better, and I have to find ways.
Yeah. Look, I've been reflecting on that recently, actually. There will have to be some amendments. I can scale a fair bit in this format because it's like a hybrid of what I do. I figure I'll know the way. I've got ideas, but I don't 100% know at this point. And then, you know, maybe having elements to group and then the one-on-one, but I'd keep it small and intimate because of what I do. I don't really want it, even though I teach on a mass, I don't really want it to be that way as the core of my business because I think it loses something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's part of your flavor. It is that lovely personal. So it's not always a great grand plan to be able to, you know, bigger is not necessarily better on some occasions. I just wondered that when you've got a specific unique business that always relies on you, there's beautiful comfort in that, but it's also challenging to be
absolutely.
And so
absolutely. Yeah. It's a bit that one of we'll just have to, I just trust I'll know. And I don't 100% know at this point. It's a bit like you're the Annie. We all want you. So at a certain point we'll be that level. So then you'll have to work out your doppelganger.
Exactly. We go, you know, cloning will be on by then. So just to finish up, do we have any questions from Jill? Jill's put in the chat, liked your discussion on being intentional and strategic. Would you like to ask any specific questions to Jane? Nikki's there, Esther's there, Alona's come on and she's our next speaker. Katie's come to join us as well. Any questions specifically for Jane? No, just nice little emojis. All righty.
Hi. Hi, Jane.
Hello, Jane. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Well, thank you. It mustn't be the middle of the night. Yeah.
Gosh, I spoke with you at 2 a.m. my time. And
I know.
So is it 2 a.m. there? Is it like, it must be some crazy hour?
No, it's about 7-ish, 7:30 a.m. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that would have been a better time, I guess. But anyway, it's good to see you. And I appreciate you being on here and giving us advice. And it's really great to know that, you know, looking into our conversation, I feel, I don't know, I feel a bit humbled that, you know, you spent that time with me, and it really inspired me about authenticity, and even more so after today. And it's hard because I'm transitioning out of academia, but I'll always be an educator. So that educator won't leave, just it has to transform though, because I don't really want to stay at a university. I want to be my own bird, you know. So
and that's the magic. That's the magic of each of us, is our unique backstory.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you.
Beautiful. Oh, well, thank you for joining us, Jill, and just Yeah, keep asking questions at the end of each speaker. Put some comments in the chat. It is wonderful to have you join us. And we're all at different stages. We've got people coming and going over a period of 12 hours here. Everyone's at different stages. You'll have some people jump on who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. Some people just in those early phases, other people who've been doing this journey for a long period of time. That's what I love about it. And every speaker so far has just shown us just the breadth of experience, but also the commonality of it starts with people. It's all about people. You've got to connect with people before you can do business, right? It's about showing up consistently. It's about more and more owning your own authenticity and your own space. It's about, just backing yourself when others don't, and being okay with that. Learning to just be focused, to narrow down into your niche, to do the deep dive, as Deb spoke about before, to actually do that hard work and really know who you're trying to serve. Being aware that you might be shifting over periods of time. Many of us have shifted over COVID. That it's okay, and it's actually a good thing that you want to be shifting where you're adding the most value to people moving forward. And it could be an evolution of yourself. It can be an evolution of your business. It can just be a changing space for a market that suddenly they go, you know what, I actually need this, and you go, well, I can bend my business a little bit, and I'm okay with that. So there's just been so much fantastic quality sharing. I have just absolutely loved it so far, and I'm just pumped for the rest of the day. So anyway, I just want to do a big thank you to Jane Vandermeer. I'll just enjoy having Jane share with us. I just love your spirit, and you always just keep me calm. I love that.